Ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
It's time to flip a coin and find out.
Well, we need to know what we're calling for here.
We're calling it to see who's got the best sports knowledge here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
Flip it again. Things are getting tight here on the Coin Flip podcast. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly, as we are getting close to the end of the NFL regular season. 15 weeks are in the books. That means over 200 picks have been made from me and Martino here on the podcast, picking outright moneyline selections of each and every matchup every single week of the season. Records on screen from the previous week in Week 15. As always, a short recap of the week before we dive into our Week 16 slate. Martin, how's it going? Give me your thoughts on what was another crazy week in the NFL in 15.
You know, it was a crazy week in the NFL. It was a fun week. I can't lie about that. I did have multiple heart attacks and resurrections because of the Chicago Bears game. I've aged at least 10, 15 years because of that result. Because I've never seen worse butterfingers than Devin Osborne at Utah Tech, and that is a bar to reach. You know, there were a lot of fun games. Apparently, the Raiders can't score any points against an NFC North team, but as soon as they see the Chargers, they can put up 63 points. So that was fun to watch on Thursday Night Football. Obviously, the Ravens and the Ravens game, a couple of the Saturday games, the Bengals comeback win against the Vikings was fun to watch. Some of the afternoon games were fun to watch on Sunday. So overall, the week was a fun week. 3 more weeks in the NFL. Let's see what happens this coming week. Obviously, game tonight, game Saturday, Sunday, Monday. If you're not bored with sports, I promise you until Tuesday morning, you'll figure out, oh, wait, there's no sports on tonight. So for the next 4 or 5 nights, Jacob, it's just fulfilling sports action with mostly NFL, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Well said, Martin. Can't wait to see what happens indeed. Looking at some of the surprise selections, the Texans ran into Tennessee and got the victory, a 3-point dub. Neither one of us saw that happening. The Saints took care of the hot Giants at home, and they're going to kick off our predictions for Week 16. But Martin, the Panthers. My Carolina Panthers got their second win of the season. I'm happy about that looking back, but of course I took the Falcons to win it, and I had them betting as well. That did not go very well for me. But the Bills, Martin, I did land on the Bills in what was going to be kind of a toss-up game. Buffalo was favored slightly. They got it done by a heck of a lot more, 31-10 over the Cowboys, and the Eagles losing to the lock monster himself, Martin, yet again. You have nailed another Monday night underdog. Martin, I'm kind of scrolling through on screen. You have hit some underdogs here in weeks past. I think it's been a couple weeks. You hit Eagles over Kansas City. You had Broncos over the Bills a couple weeks back. You had the Vikings against San Francisco. So, Martino, you have been on a roll when it comes to the Monday night games, and I can see I didn't color in the winners here yet, but I'll get to that. Martin, overall, a 10-6 tie. What do you think of us going 10-6 and tying? And when it comes down to the overall records, I still have a 3-game lead over you. Do you think you can catch me by the end of the year?
I think I can catch you by the end of the year. Hopefully I can catch you. We got a few more weeks coming up here. You know what? I don't know what it is with these underdog and Monday night games. I think I keep getting a little lucky. I think I'm like teams that just go on a lucky win streak, and I think I just hit on a good couple ones. I was nervous about the Seahawks one because they went up 10-0. I was like, well, I'm done. This is over with. And it turned out to not be. It kind of ends my winning streak because I had like 4 wins in a row. So us tied ends that, but at the same time, considering one of us is not like 58 and 130, I would say you and I are doing pretty good. We got this, picking thing down. And obviously, we've had some real doozy ones of a miss and real doozies of a hit. So I think that's just how everyone goes with the sports betting wise world. And I think this week I might have the leg up on the competition. Just saying.
So we will put that statement to the test. Enough of week 15, week 16, kicking off the picks, starting the timer off, 3 minutes counting down. New Orleans is a 4-point underdog in Los Angeles. Martin, who takes this one?
So obviously, this is the rematch of the NFL championship game, the NFC championship game, where afterwards the ruling of challenging pass interference calls, which did not go successfully in the NFL, happened. So let's see what happens this time. What flag's going to come out of nowhere and end this game? Um, to me, though the Saints put up 24 points against the Giants, and they were a better team than the Giants than we thought. I'm going to take the Rams in this game. I know Cooper Kupp hasn't had the best season, and I know Puka Nacua has picked up some of the slack due to Cooper Kupp's injuries. And I know Matt Stafford has had some, up and down games this year, but he has been on a rise. Okay, the win over the Browns, the close game against the Ravens. He has had games this year where Matt Stafford still proves he's got enough in that arm to lead an offense. I think the Rams will be happy at home. They're a better team at home. Aaron Donald will be on the other end. The Saints running game isn't perfect, so I think if the Rams defense can contain the Saints offense with pressure and contain their running game, I think Derek Carr is going to have an issue throwing the ball tonight. Give me the Rams.
Even though Derek Carr is going to be away from that home New Orleans crowd that boos him, Martin, I think playing on the road, taking the Saints on the road, is not a smart idea either. The Los Angeles Rams have won, 4 of their last 5. They've been desperate, going back to week 10, it feels like. They had a rough start to the year. A lot of people thought this team was going to be in contention for maybe not the number 1 overall pick, for maybe a top 3 pick in the draft. They couldn't be more wrong. Martin, their eyes are set in the playoffs. I think they're gonna get there. Their momentum is carrying them there. I don't trust the Saints. While I think they can squeak by in some divisional matchups to close out the season, and who knows, maybe they will be the team that gets out of the NFC South that hosts a home playoff game. But Martin, I think the Rams are going to be set to be a wild card here. I think this is going to be a victory. Why? You mentioned Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. He had a wide open touchdown last week. I think teams are starting to realize that they can't contain both of these guys. And at least one of them is going to have a monster day here to close out the rest of the remaining of the regular season. I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think they get it done. Kyron Williams has arguably been a better running back this season than Alvin Kamara, and that's saying something. The stats really point to Williams in the head-to-head comparison. I'm looking at the ESPN app. So, Martin, I'm going to roll with the Los Angeles Rams as well. On to the Bengals at the Steelers, where Cincinnati is favored by 2, with Jake Browning, who's on the injury report, but not really for anything concerning. Martin, do the Steelers have a bounce-back win in them?
It's going to be interesting because reports are coming out that Trubisky will not be the starter. So far, it would be another game with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. We saw what the Steelers did. They went up against a little bit of a inferior team in the Colts. The Colts just had a good day. They're good at home. Browning being, supposedly on the injury reserve, we'll see if he gets lifted off. Most likely he will get lifted off that. We don't expect to see Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase is hurt. He is, questionable for the game. The Steelers have struggled at home. The Bengals won the last matchup, but that was in Cincinnati, and that was the day the Steelers finally got more than 400 yards of offense. This is going to be a closer game than everybody thinks. The 2 point is the right number. I'm going to go. I'll stick with my pick. I'm going to go with Bengals. I'll take a chance on the Bengals. The Steelers' offense and their mishaps and their inconsistency to stay healthy and have a direction, I think continues to hurt this team really badly. Pickens not blocking, saying doesn't want to get hurt. I think it's an excuse. So with all of this mishap in Pittsburgh, I think Cincinnati could take advantage of it. Give me the Bengals.
Well, I think there's been mishap in Pittsburgh for quite some time. I think, Mike Tomlin's been able to keep a steady ship, uh, regardless of what happens in the locker room. They've been able to put, a somewhat acceptable defensive, product out there on the field, on the turf for the most part. But Martin, this one's going to be played in Acrisure. Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season, and I don't know if I want to fade his consistency throughout the years. Martin, I'm looking at the Bengals here. 2 of their last 3 wins have been, field goal kicks to win it in overtime. So, Martin, I'm gonna roll with the Steelers here. I think the Bengals have been squeaking by. The Steelers are on a 3-game skid, 4 out of their last 5. I'm gonna trust, Steel City just to come back up to their average play. Yeah, Pickens, he's not going to block on the outside, Martin, but I would not be surprised at all if he goes out and has a touchdown and, close to 100 yards this week. He's still a good receiver when they decide to pass the ball, even if that's with Mason Rudolph. Now, the rest of the, offensive weapons are, a crapshoot. But, Martin, I'm going to take the Steelers just in a somehow, some way they get it done type of game. On to the Bills and the Chargers. The Bills, some are calling them the hottest team in football, Martin. Do they get another one?
Yeah, they will. I'm not going to waste too much time on this one. It'll be the Bills. Easton Stick will not get it done. I feel bad for the kid. This is not how you want to get NFL starts. Get completely shellacked like that by the Raiders, and now you have to go up against the Bills after they won over the Cowboys. Yeah, good luck, Easton. I pray for you very much, man. No waste on this one. The Bills will win. I don't think they'll cover the 12. I don't think it'll be that severe. I don't think it'll be like a Raiders shellacking, but definitely the Bills on top of the Chargers.
Martin, I'm going to take the Bills as well for the sake of our predictions here and wanting to make sure I get the season win over you. But wouldn't it be quite hilarious for the Bills to, kick it into high gear a couple weeks ago, monster win against the Jets, close overtime loss to the Eagles, and then they have 2 statement wins against Kansas City and Dallas. Wouldn't it be hilarious, to kind of, potentially ruin the Bills' playoff hopes if a team like, the Chargers, who just had their coach fired, who, even if it is with Easton Stick, whatever his name is, Martin, the Chargers might play with some fire here. They might play with some fire. And the Bills potentially could be looking ahead on the schedule and thinking, man, we got Bill Belichick. Man, we got Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. We got some games we got to win. This could be a trap game for the Bills, although I won't pick them. Maybe the Chargers keep it interesting, and they are at home, although they really don't have much of an advantage there in that stadium. On to the Browns and the Texans, Martin. Good defensive team. A team with an old school quarterback who's making a rise again, and then C.J. Stroud out there for the Texans.
Yeah, so unfortunately, just looking at news and reports today and yesterday, CJ Stroud is going to be out. He's still in concussion protocol, which is upsetting in the fact that if you bet on the rookie of the year and you took CJ Stroud, you might be a little nervous. So hopefully maybe he can come back for the last couple games. Who knows? But right now it's either Puka Nacua or CJ Stroud for rookie of the year. With this matchup, Case Keenum or Joe Flacco. The Browns got away with a win over the Bears. They shouldn't have won that game. Joe Flacco turned it over 3 times, 3 bad interceptions too. Nothing just like a deflection like Darnell Mooney. But nonetheless, the Texans have been really good at home. They haven't really slipped up there. They beat the Broncos, who were on a hot streak. They beat the Bucks, who were on a hot streak. I mean, they have been able to contain teams at the house in their building. I'm gonna take that chance again. I'll take the Texans over the Browns. That defense is scary by the Browns. They can force turnovers, but if the Houston can keep the building NGR Stadium, whatever it's called, if they can keep that momentum, I think stopping the Browns here is a great game for them. Um, I don't believe Case Keenum will put them in bad situations. He didn't versus the Titans. I believe in him. Give me the Texans.
Martin, I'm going to disagree with you for the second time on this week's podcast for the 16 picks here on the Coin Flip podcast with Jacob Zimmerman and Martin Kelly. Martin, I said Joe Flacco. I gave you the stat about Flacco last week that I think he had, I'm not quite sure what it was. I think I said he had more passing yards per game than uh, DTR and Watson combined. I'm pretty sure I said that was the stat. Well, Martin, I think those stats only got better. Flacco threw for 374 yards last week. Now, he did have the 3 picks, but we're talking about a run game, that for a sack, people are like, oh, they can recover it with this Ford guy, even with Chubb done for the year and a devastating, leg injury. Martin, the Browns had 29 yards of rushing last week. I think they're going to be able to rush it a little bit better against this Houston Texans front. The Bears have been really solid, defensively over the last couple of weeks. I don't think the Texans are quite on that level at this point of the season. I think Flacco cuts down on the turnovers. So I'm going to roll with the Browns here to get it done over Houston. Martin, the Commanders and the Jets, 2 teams, not having the seasons they wanted, with some quarterbacks, having some decent play at times, but not consistent through the entire season. Who wins?
You're not wrong about that. They haven't had any consistent quarterback play. Jets fans woke up yesterday for a second happy to hear that Aaron Rodgers is off the injury reserve. He's on the roster, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get him back. We're gonna win." No, he won't play this year. He's completely shut down for the season. He might come back for the last week of the season just to say hurrah, but wouldn't that be funny that he plays for the Jets only on the first and last game and not the real entire true season? Um, I'll take the Jets. The Jets have been so good on that porous field that they call a home field. So have the Giants. I don't know what it is about away teams. They hate that field so much. I like the commies. They're okay, but they're going to fire Ron Rivera. Who knows if Eric Bieniemy is going to get the promotion that he's always wanted. I think Sam Howell is going to play this week. They say he will, considering Jacoby Brissett came in and played for the commies last week. Yeah, I trust the Jets at home. They've been able to pull off these upset wins at home in miracle fashions. They almost beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. They beat the Eagles at home in games that were ugly. Give me the Jets at home. I'll take them over the Commies. The Commies are a fun team, but they're not a competitive team.
The Commanders are a fun team, Martin, and to be 4-10, probably isn't the most shocking thing for the people, in the DC area. But Martin, I will say that the Commanders, looking at their season this year, they have won 3 games on the road. So that's 3 out of their 4 victories they've done, away from DC. Martin, not too much of a travel going up to New York. The Aaron Rodgers situation, while, I don't actually believe that is some sort of distraction for the team, I think the Jets need to really dial in and focus here towards the end of the season and spend these last 3 weeks really thinking about what it is that they need to do to set themselves up for next season, Martin. You can have a season that is a wash, but if you can play spoiler to a couple teams on the schedule, maybe you make things tougher on the Browns the following week to get into the postseason. But Martin, the Jets are the Jets. This is where you kind of, improve the rest of the roster here over the last 3 weeks of the season by rolling out some new stuff, maybe in the play calling, just experiment out there for the Jets. But I'm going to go with Washington on the road here. But on to the Seahawks and the Titans. Drew Lock with a monster win last week, taking on Levis, in his home state of Tennessee, as far as where he's playing now in the NFL.
Yeah, and in this one again, we'll disagree, and I kind of like this. This is going to be the only reason why one of us will win the end of the season, no matter what happens. Both of us have had a great season, so it's not like one of us is completely down the drain. Taking the Titans at home. I know Seattle's favored. I know Seattle had a good game defensively. They played well against the Eagles. Offensively, they gathered up everything they had in the second half and pulled off the upset win. But the Titans at home, Jacob, we've done this all year. There's just something at that stadium. It's like the boogeyman in the Jets. They find a way to win games at home. They beat the Falcons embarrassingly at home. They had the close game against the Colts. That was just due to last minute few plays that just didn't go the Titans' way. They have this way of winning at home and finding it, and I believe in them this week as well. Will Levis has found a touch. I don't know what it is, but he's found something and it works. Yes, they're ugly wins. They're not confident wins, but Seattle and Drew Lock, it has to be knocked up as a lucky win versus Eagles. It wasn't a confident win. So I think Drew Lock got away with a lucky one, and I think his luck will run out in Tennessee. Give me Will Levis and the Titans.
Martin's taking the Titans. I think that is a. I think that's a smart pick, Martin. I think that's a smart pick to take them because I think Tennessee's been a different team completely since they made the change at quarterback. Martin, Geno Smith, it looks like he's a full participate. He was a full participation in practice. So if that's true, Geno Smith might be rolling out there. Now, is that better for the Seahawks than Drew Lock? At this point, I don't know. I think it's kind of a toss up. Maybe Geno by a hair if Drew Lock's going to be playing like he did last week. But Martin, I'm going to roll with the Seahawks. They had like a 4-game losing streak. I'm sure the locker room was really starting to have some doubt in the back of their head, but they rallied last week. A big monster win on Monday night that you called, Martin, and I'm surprised that you're not taking them again. So I'm going to take the Seahawks. Maybe partly because you're not. I think they're going to get it done on the road. The Titans, they're looking to play spoiler, but the Seahawks are getting really gritty and desperate. And I think Pete Carroll is going to have those guys once again ready to run through a wall to try to make another postseason push. I can see Seattle now saving their season. So Martin, on to the Colts and the Falcons, two teams that are also, dying for a last-second scrap.
Yeah, they are dying for a last second scrap. Another game. Colts have had some decent results on the road. Um, the Falcons have had some up and down results at home. Obviously, the comeback win by the Vikings. This last game that was on the road um, towards Panthers. I think the Falcons lost at home to the Saints earlier in the season, so they've struggled at even the Mercedes Dome, and they haven't been too comfortable with that. Arthur Smith is still dragging for straws to see who could be his quarterback. Give me the Colts. I'm gonna ride this momentum wave. I just think the Colts put together a solid game plan against the Steelers. They took advantage of their quarterback situation. They took advantage of the fact that the Steelers also lost to the Cardinals this season. So, to me, the Steelers are on the down and the Colts are on the up. They haven't been a great road team, but they pulled out the win versus the Titans, and I think that's a statement win for them to show that if they can go on the road and put good results together, they can win. They went to Carolina and won there as well. So give me the Colts. I'll take them on the road.
Okay, this may be one of those takes that you say is kind of just a casual take, Martin, and I'm okay with that. But I've said this kind of take before on the podcast, so it shouldn't be anything surprisingly new. This is kind of like my almost MLB baseball theory, Martin. When I have two teams that I think are pretty almost evenly in skill, coaching, across the board, how they've played, and one team is slightly above 500 and the other team is slightly below 500, I like the chance, the team slightly above to lose, the team slightly below to win, and kind of even things out. I almost like those odds just a little bit more. The Falcons losing in Carolina, Martin, needs to be a smack to the face. They go back to the Dome, where I think they get it done. Martin, the Colts on the road, they won 4 out of their last 5. There was an overtime game in there. There was a 4-point win there in New England. The Tampa Bay game went down to the wire as well, 7-point contest. You win last week against the hapless Steelers. I think they drop. I think it's about time. The Minshew miracles have been really great to see there in Indianapolis. Zach Moss looking like a great RB1 that he is, with JT as the highest paid backup in the league. Pittman Jr. hoping that he can recover at some point. That was a nasty, nasty hit that he just absorbed. One of the biggest hits of the last 5 seasons in the NFL. Go watch that a couple times again. Martin, I'm going to take the Falcons here at home. I think Arthur Smith really senses the pressure. I think he, senses the heat starting to, creep up into the heels of his job security. He's on the hot seat. I think he utilizes his weapons. I think Robinson has a bounce back week. So I'm going to go with the Falcons in the ATL. Martin, the Packers and the Panthers. Can my Panthers win another one in a row?
I hope not. Okay, listen, I'm not hoping that they lose the rest of the season, but I hope they solidify at least one of the top 2 picks. Obviously, the Cardinals are now back in contention with that. We'll talk about the Bears and the Cardinals here in a minute or two. I would want to take the Panthers over the fact that they pulled off a really ugly win over the Falcons at home. And the Panthers have had 2 of their lucky wins at home. Jacob, they beat the Texans. They beat the Falcons. They beat 2 teams that were on a high, low rise type season and results. So that favors in their direction. The Buccaneers taking apart the Southern Canada Packers and embarrassing them at Lambeau Field was very fun to watch. But unfortunately, I have to side with the Southern Canada Packers in this one. They're just better just on paper, and that's going to be enough to get them the result that they're going to get in a win. But something about the Panthers at home, Jacob, they just find ways to win ugly games. This might be another one. I could be wrong, but give me Southern Canada Packers. They'll win this game.
Martin, the attendance was absolutely abysmal at the Carolina Panthers game last week. This one's even closer to the holiday, so I don't know if that, more people are in town, maybe more people go to the game, or it's more people are busy and don't go to the game. We're gonna have to see with that, but it's a completely different team that's rolling in. You go from division rival to small market team. However, that small market team is one of the biggest brands still in the entire NFL, the Green Bay Packers. So I think the Panthers might have more fans in attendance this week, but that won't change the result. Martin, the Packers can go onto their big board in the facility and write 9-8 on the board and say, we have to get here. If we want to have any chance of getting there and getting into the postseason, a win starts now. They need to bounce back win. I think they've dropped their last 2 in a row. Yeah, Giants and Buccaneers. Those are not good losses at all. If you lose to the Panthers, that'll really be quite the shot in the season that was looking promising and then all of a sudden fell off a cliff after defeating the Kansas City Chiefs in prime time. So, Martin, I'm going to roll with the Packers as well. I'd be shocked to see them lose. I'd be shocked to see Carolina win 2 in a row. There's just too many things that I'm riding on that I don't see going wrong. So on to Detroit, on to Minnesota, where the Vikings can do the skull chant at home against a team that they're going to be underdogs against, who is fighting for still a chance maybe at the 1 seed. I don't know. Martin, the Lions, who you got?
Just for a second here, Jacob, when was the last time, if we could ever go back into history, even more into like into real, true, rich history of the Lions, have we ever remembered the Lions being a favorite over the Vikings? It's usually the other way around. The Vikings are the favorite. The Lions are the poor sap of the NFC North. It is completely a reversal of a year this year, watching the Lions dominate the NFC North, and it brings happiness to my heart because my grandfather's a longtime Lions fan. Hopefully he can see him win at least something that matters. In his life. the Lions have only lost one road game, and that was against the Bears. That was against a really good defensive Bears team, and they're going to go up against a really good Minnesota defensive team here. That Minnesota defense kept the same Raiders team that scored 63 points on Thursday night to nothing. So we already know the defense is going to be a struggle for the Lions to deal with this week. But I'm going to take the Lions on the road. The Lions do one thing really well, Jacob, which is play action. And they've done that successfully with Laporte, with St. Brown, and with Jameson Williams, and giving them the ball and giving that defense a disguise of, is he either giving it to Gibbs or is he going to go into, play action, draw back, and Goff's going to throw it. I think they're going to hit that play action a lot this week. I think that's a bread and butter of their offense. Get back to that. Run the ball with Montgomery and Gibbs. Feed it to them. I think it'll still be a struggle, but the Lions on the road is something you should trust, and I trust them this week in that.
Man, the Lions have been a cover machine over the last couple of seasons in Vegas, over the last season and a half. I mean, Jared Goff, he's not the same quarterback when he's on the road, but typically that implies, late in the season in a cold weather city. Now, he is, but Martin, I have been to a Vikings game when I worked in Iowa. I went up to the season opener, not this season, but last season, where they had the big win over Aaron Rodgers in his last final campaign against the Packers. Martin, it's in a dome. It's in a dome. So Jared Goff, I feel good about the Goff boy in the dome. Montgomery, he's been pulling well. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been putting on a campaign that he is a top 10 receiver in the league. He's probably borderline. He's right there. Neither of these teams are, other than Kirk Cousins, the major one, are too ravaged by injury right now. I know Penei Sewell was limited in practice this week, Martin. We're hoping to see him out there healthy at some point. So, Martin, I'm going to roll the Lions as well. Not a super confident pick because it's, a divisional road favorite late in the season with a desperate Vikings team. But I'm going to go with the Lions as well because I think Jared Goff, will do enough. The Jags and the Buccaneers, Martin. Who do you got winning in Tampa?
So, Tampa hasn't been a particularly great home team. Obviously, they lost to the Falcons. Obviously, they lost to the Lions earlier in the season. Both home games for them. Those probably should have been wins for Tampa Bay. And right now, they'd be in a better situation for playoff spots than trying to win the NFC laughingstock division. That is the South. I'm going to take the Jags on the road. The Jags have been a very good road team this year, and they're not traveling too far. They're staying in their state, so no time change, no true having to spend 3 days in a hotel room. They kind of get to have a nice week of sleeping in their beds, chill out, and then get on a bus and go to Tampa Bay. So with that, Trevor Lawrence will be a little healthier this week. Travis Etienne will be a little healthier this week. They have injuries there with those two stars, but enough will be enough for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They'll create enough havoc for Tampa Bay. Give me the Jags on the road.
The Jags were relatively hot, a couple weeks ago, Martin, but they've since started to fade. They're 8-6. Trevor Lawrence did not pop like some people suspected he would. They've lost the last 3 in a row. I think they bounced back. I think this is a good week to do so, but they're playing a team that's won 3 games in a row. Oof. Man, Martin, I think we're going to side together on this one. But once again, not a super confident pick. I think Baker has those boys balling. I think he has them, with the NFC South title in mind. Jacksonville, almost a flip of last season where they started off slow. They turned into quite the team that knocked off the Chargers in the postseason. And I think they're kind of, flipping back. So I'm going to go with the Jags here, Martin, but it's not super confident. You kind of look at the quarterbacks here. You get this slight edge to Trevor Lawrence at this point. Baker Mayfield's been playing good. Outside of that, maybe the rest of the rosters kind of match up. But, This is another trust pick, I think, from you and I, so we're going to go with Jacksonville. On to the Cardinals and the Bears, Martin. You picked against them last week, and they almost won it. Or no, you picked them to win, and they almost did. Martin, who you're going with now this week in Chicago?
Well, one thing I hope is that no one's eating Butterfingers this week, and I hope no one is trying to grease up their gloves or trying to do anything special with those. Just make them normal and original. Stop trying to do too many things. Robert Tonyan dropping the ball, Darnell Mooney dropping the ball. It was a game gift wrap for the Bears to win. They're up by 10. All you have to do is win, and they don't, and they blow it again. But they won't do it against the Cardinals. I know the Cardinals are a good team. I know they pulled off some upset wins this year against Dallas, against Pittsburgh. They've had those up and down parts of the season. But the Bears defense is just a solidified defense. Yeah, I know they gave up the lead and all that, but you can't do much more when your offense just won't put points on the board. When you go 3-and-out, 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 your defense can only hang so much. You and I are former Utah Tech broadcasters. How many times did we see that? The defense would hold up, hold up, hold up. And after a while, when the offense wouldn't do nothing, the defense would break and just give up. And I don't blame the Bears defense at one point in the game going, yep, we're not winning this game. Let's just go home and get on the bus and go back to Chicago. This time it won't be that case. They're at home. They're a better team at home. They'll soak up the holiday crowd. I know the Cardinals might be just the team and whatnot, but give me the Bears. I'll rock with the Bears. The Bears. I know they can win this game. There's no way they could lose to the Cardinals. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen. But, yeah, I'll trust the Bears this week.
I think the Bears is a smart pick. This is kind of an interesting game for both franchises because almost everybody expects these two teams to have some massive renovations over the offseason, change things up at the main quarterback spot potentially. You have two teams that are, their quarterbacks are kind of fighting for their hopes to stay on the squad. That's kind of how I see it with Kyler Murray and Justin Fields for their respective teams. I guess I'm going to go with Chicago here, Martin. Their defense is playing really well. I think they'll give Murray some issues. While he is one of the best in the league in extending plays and doing it with his tiny little quick feet, I think he's bound to throw a couple picks into some tough coverage. Thrown across his body on the middle of the field. For what it's worth, I think the run game has been better for Chicago compared to Arizona. Although James Conner is a stud, I think Chicago can punch it into the red zone. But mainly this is the defense. This is the defense coming down to it, and I think Justin Fields can have a solid game. Now he doesn't need to go out there and necessarily win the game. He just needs to manage Chicago to a home victory. So I'll go with the Bears here as well. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona made a nice little rally and, gave Kyler Murray some confidence going into the next season. On to the Cowboys and the Dolphins. Two teams that love to blow everybody out, Martin. Who gets the blowout win this week?
This is going to be a real tough, close call. Tyreek Hill possibly being out, but then again, if you've been seeing the Tyreek news, if you've been seeing some of the posts on social media, you know why he could be out. Getting married this week, congratulations to him, and also having 3 kids in the same year. Yeah, I said that one, Jacob. He's had 3 kids in the same year, 2023. He had 3 children. Go figure for that. The reason why I'm taking Miami in this game is Miami's been really good at home, and the Cowboys have struggled on the road. And what I mean by that, Jacob, is they lost to the Bills on the road. They lost to the Eagles on the road. They lost to the Niners on the road. They're only subpar road wins this year. And they lost to the Cardinals on the road. Their only true subpar wins on the road are over the Panthers, over the Giants. They blew out 2 bad teams, and they've lost almost nearly every other road game on their schedule, and over the Panthers. I forgot to mention that one. But my point is, against bad teams, they can win on the road. Against good teams, playoff teams, they struggle on the road. And I think that's going to be a factor again in this game. Miami is better at home. Dallas struggles against above 500 teams on the road this year. I think that matters again. Dallas has everything nice that could say get a win, but I trust Miami. I trust Tyreek to come into this game ready. And I think also this was a good point that brought up by the sports shows before I hand it back to you, Jacob. That number line is at -1. If Tyreek comes back, I see that number jumping up maybe another 2 points. I think it'll go from -1 to -3. That's how big Tyreek matters. So give me the Dolphins.
And I think the point spread changed even more last week when Tyreek Hill was ruled out. Um, Martin, I think the Cowboys are going to get this one done, actually. While you're going with the Finns at home, I'm looking at, the last 5 here, as they typically do for the Dolphins. While they've played the Jets twice, I think at this point the Jets are mentally checked out, and I think this is going to be the toughest defense that the Dolphins have seen in quite some time. While the Cowboys have, had some weeks recently where they've been gashed, a la Seattle, Buffalo, of course, last week on the 17th. But I think the Cowboys are going to get it done. I think Dakota Prescott, seized his individual opportunity to snag the MVP. He sees Brock Purdy take the lead. A big performance this week on the road in Miami, taking out Tua and Tyreek if he's there, I think would give Dak potentially, put him right back even with the odds, right next to Brock Purdy for the most valuable quarterback, Martin, in the National Football League, because that's what the award is. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. I think they get it done. Miami was looking really dominant in the run game to start the season, and while they maybe haven't, fallen off or anything, it's just not quite what they were. I think the Cowboys. Tony Pollard's not necessarily, super duper special, and Mostert will, of course, find a way to get it into the end zone, once the offense has set it up, deep into the red zone. CeeDee Lamb's another guy who you can say he can outplay Tyreek Hill in this kind of game. He's been one of the best receivers over the last 10 weeks without a doubt. Maybe number one over the last 10 weeks if we're being real. And then how sad of a story for Tyreek if he's, again going to be out, if he's going to miss his opportunity at the 2,000-yard chase. I'm going to go with the Cowboys ultimately to get it done, though, in maybe a close one. Maybe a close one that these two teams aren't used to seeing very often. Patriots and Broncos. Denver's favored by more than a touchdown against Belichick.
Yeah, I won't waste time on this one either. It will be the Broncos, just like the Bills game. A team that's checked out. The Patriots have checked out this season. Reports are Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft have come to a decision. Apparently, after the Germany game, that both of them would say, "All right, at the end of the season, Bill Belichick, you're out, and we're going to look for a new general manager and head coach." That are still the rumors. Nothing is for certain until the end of the season. But all signs point to Bill Belichick is out as the coach of the New England Patriots. Give me the Broncos at home. They've been a really good team at home. They've been better at home against certain teams this year. They're just a better team. Broncos, Broncos, Broncos.
Oh, sorry, I penciled in you in for the wrong one. But yeah, Broncos. I'm going to go with the Broncos as well, Martin. I think it would be interesting, though, if the Patriots got this one done. If Bill Belichick had one of his last hurrahs and was like, you know what, we're gonna make this pick as bad as possible. We're not gonna let this pick be the number one pick for you guys in this franchise I'm leaving behind. If the reports are true, if Bill Belichick's out, he might try to win, a last couple games here. To make that pick maybe go from the 2nd overall pick to, maybe the 7th overall pick or something like that. Denver, I think they'll get it done. I'm wondering where Russell Wilson's confidence is at this point in the season, especially with his, verbal clash on the sideline last week with Sean Payton, the head coach. Broncos winning 3 out of the last 5. Patriots winning just 1 out of their last 5. Martin, the Patriots, they've scored 20, once recently. I don't think it's going to happen again this week. I think the Broncos get it done in a game that probably strikes the under yet again for these two squads. So 2 for 2 on the Broncos here for me and Martino. On to some bigger names here. The Chiefs and the Raiders. Martin, Kansas City is favored by 10 points. They've been favored by 10 for some games recently. I know they were favored 10 my last week. And they almost covered. The spread kind of jumped up from 7.5 from when we picked it all the way to 10.5, and they won by just 10. Martin, Kansas City historically is not great when they're double-digit favorites, especially in a divisional game where they're playing the Raiders at home. We think the Chiefs are both probably going to win this one, Martin, but how do they win?
They will win confidently. I have no doubt in that one. This will not be a first half repeat, I don't believe, of last time these two teams met, which was the Raiders went up 14-0 on the Chiefs before the Chiefs even had 2 yards of offense. You saw Patrick Mahomes' reaction last week. He is completely done with Kadarius Toney. He wants him out. He probably wanted him out last week after having to defend him after his stupid decision to line off sides and ruin the game-winning drive against the Bills. Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes' season is about ready to come to an end officially. I think he probably wants to be done. No, he can give me the playoffs, but he'll do all of that because they will be in the playoffs. Um, they'll beat the Raiders, but um, the Chiefs just can't oversee this game. They can't look to next week. They have to get ready for this game. They have to win this game. Otherwise, there's some serious rumblings going on in Kansas City because that will look bad as the week portrays next week. But I have full confidence in the Chiefs. This is not going to be a repeat of what happened in Las Vegas.
Yeah, this should be a layup, Martin. This should totally be a layup. I don't see the Raiders' 60-plus performance from last week in the scoring department, playing a role here. It might give them some confidence. Confidence is what you need when you're facing the defending champs. However, this is the Chiefs who recognize that, if they want to have any shot still at that 1 seed, they've got to win out. And, to kind of just gain some confidence back in their offense, Martin, this is not only the week to win, Martin, this is the week to win by 20 plus. This is the week to get back, and score 35. Hang 5 touchdowns on the opposing team. This is the week to do it, Martin, because if you don't, if you go into the playoffs and you're winning these 17-14, 21-17 type ball games, I don't know if the Chiefs will be able to find that magic they did last year. So you need to have some moments. I think they'll have some more moments this week, Martin. I think the Chiefs get it done here. Philadelphia, speaking of big favorites, they're playing the Giants. They got the Giants 2 out of the last 3 weeks of the season, I believe. So Martin, the Eagles are looking to close strong here in the NFC picture. Do we even need to say much more on the Eagles?
We do. And I wish we could do an entire episode on the Eagles' entire season because the soliloquy we would give would be amazing. The only win this season, Jacob, that has been a confident win for these Eagles was a 31-17 win over the Miami Dolphins. You can pull up their schedule. Even the fans that are listening, pull up their schedule. Name me another confident win on their schedule. What, versus the Bills? A game they had to come back in. Against the Commanders? They've had one score games against the Commies twice this season. Against the Cowboys, again, they got destroyed on the road, and then they only won by 5 over the Cowboys at home. Against the Patriots, they almost blew that first game of the season to the Patriots, to a team that doesn't have more than 3 wins this season. So the Eagles are broken. Their defense is not the same. Their offense has to make up for everything their defense is not doing. They miss Gardner Johnson. They miss TJ Edwards. They don't have those presents, and it's hurting them. And I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna pick another bombshell pick. Give me the Giants. I'm gonna take the Giants because the Eagles, I feel like, are on the wrong side of the momentum train. They've had way too many close games. This is an important stretch for the Eagles. They got the Giants, Cardinals, and then Giants. That's your final 3 games of the schedule. And I have a feeling they couldn't even win 2 of those games. The Eagles are in trouble. The Cowboys will win the NFC East. Give me the Giants on the road.
Oh man, there was a couple games earlier in the season that I don't think were super close. Rams, Bucks, Vikings, but that was early in the season. So you have a point there, Martin. But I don't think I said I said this last week. I said that I don't think the Eagles are going to lose 3 in a row. They've lost. Give it to me again. I don't think the Eagles are going to lose 4 in a row, Martin. I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm taking the big favorite, even though you have been absolute money with the big underdogs on Monday. It's not the Monday night game, though. It's an afternoon game. I don't know what the heck is going on with the NFL schedule. Red Zone's going to be pretty dry, but I'm going to go with the Eagles, Martin. I think, like my pick with the Chiefs, this is the week to figure it out. Also, the Eagles should start to sense a little bit of pressure because the scenario is laid out. I'll credit, First Things First, I saw this, and Nick Wright, basically saying that, if the Eagles win out, they'll get the 1 seed. They'll win the division. If the Cowboys and the Eagles, though, both finish 2-1, it'll go to the Cowboys. So the Eagles can't really afford to lose a game if they want to win the division. And how crazy would that be if the Eagles ended up, on the road, wild card week? So I'm going to go with the Eagles here. I think they start to feel the pressure, and I think they get it done. I think, Tommy DeVito and his agent, the Italian Stallion, have been a nice story. But Martin, as we know with some of these stories, most of them start to fade after a couple of weeks with these backup quarterbacks. Same thing's going to happen to Mr. Tommy DeVito up there in New York City. So on to the Ravens and the Niners, Martin, in San Fran. Probably one of the Game of the Year candidates, at least on paper, Martin. Who do you got on Monday night?
Absolutely on paper. I mean, this is a Super Bowl matchup people have been trying to talk into the last couple weeks of the season, saying, Ravens, Niners, looking for the Super Bowl. I can't disagree with all the momentum that's going on in the AFC or in the AFC at the current moment. That would not be a correct pick of a decision. The Niners or the Ravens? The Ravens coming into this game, they've been successful at times, but they've also had some close games, Jacob. Obviously, we go back a couple weeks. They had the close game against the Rams. That was a fun game to watch, but it was a little bit too close for comfort for Ravens fans. They did get the confident win this past week. I can't deny that. I'm going to take the Niners. I'll take the favorite. The Niners are just unstoppable. They're just so much of a perfect moving train. Everything's right. The temperature of the coal in the steam room is correct. Everything is just perfect down to the last nibble of a bolt and a washer on the train. It's just a smooth train going to the playoffs. They're the number 1 seed. They'll be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Everything just lines up. I still believe the Ravens are the favorite coming out of the AFC for right now. I would put my money on them. But in this matchup, give me the favorite. Give me the Niners to close out the week.
Of course, anytime I see these two logos next to each other, I'm going to think of that Super Bowl that had the brief power outage, Martin. The game that was. I remember, I don't know how old I was, Martin. What was that, 2013, 2012? Yeah.
Yes,
I was
it
about that
was.
age.
Yeah, I was 16 years old.
Martin, you mentioned the kind of force that San Francisco is, Martin. They are an unfadable force, which means I can't fade them. I can't go against them. I'm going to pick them, and they're going to get it done. McCaffrey, Purdy, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, Williams, Bosa. The names go on and on and on and on and on this team. And to tie them all together, they have the coach to do it. They have the play caller to do it in Kyle Shanahan. Now, the Ravens are a perfect matchup for the 49ers because they're also another physical team that can run the ball down your throat. I'm almost a little worried for Lamar Jackson's sake. I think, Fred Warner could land one big hit to him, and that could end the season. We see Lamar, whether he gets sick, whether he gets banged up physically, he starts to, his body starts to disappoint him late in seasons. And I hope, this week isn't the seed for that potential issue. So I'm going to go with the Niners here. I think the Baltimore Ravens are a nice team. I don't think they have the passing game to get it done. It's not really down to Lamar as a passer. I think Lamar's a good passer. He's just without his star weapon in Andrews. I know Likely's a nice fill-in, a nice backup there. OBJ's had some nice spurts, but comparing Zay Flowers as your number one to number one in Deebo Samuel, with a better number two in Ayuk, with George Kittle out there, it's just a matchup that the Ravens are not going to win player to player. I think they're not going to win it coach to coach either. I'm going to go with the 49ers here in another big-time brand-on-brand matchup in San Fran. So those are all 16 picks here in the Coin Flip podcast in under an hour. Outright moneyline selections. Martino and I are neck and neck. I started hot. He's been hot lately. My first 10-win week in 5 weeks or so. 133 and 91. Martin's 130 and 94. We will see what happens this week. We had several disagreements here politely. And Week 16 is set to be another thrilling week in the NFL with games scattered across the weekend, Saturday, even into next week in Monday. I don't know how people are going to be watching Monday games on 1 o'clock when they have full-time jobs, Martin. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the bright idea was there. But anyway, Martin, any final thoughts here for Week 16?
Yeah, the thought for Monday is that it's Christmas, so everyone's going to be off for that day. Obviously, the deciding factor for that day will be: do I want to watch the Celtics and the Lakers at noon, or do I want to watch the Giants and the Eagles at noon? Or maybe I could have both on. What the heck? In this time of day and age we live in, we can have many games on at the same time. Christmas Eve, Sunday, with all the games there is going to be exciting. Tonight's game will be fun to see what happens with a rematch that should have happened years ago, but we're getting a matchup tonight. So
Okay,
this
that makes
week's
a
gonna be
lot more
fun.
sense, Martin. That makes a lot more sense. Thanks for filling me in on that. But I don't like what the NFL is trying to do. They're trying to steal Christmas Day away from NBA. No, I'm going to be watching the Lakers on Christmas Day.
Hey, you know what? It's all about the money. Money and dollar signs talk more than actually a good schedule of games. That's why I like the NHL. The NHL have decided to stay out of this dogfight and let the NBA and the NFL fight over Christmas. The NHL owns January 1st, New Year's Day. That's always the Winter Classic game. That's a better game than these games. But overall, a fun week coming up, Jacob. This is going to be interesting. Let's see who really is the true picker of the picks, because this is the week to decide it.
Week 16, Week 17, Week 18. They'll come down to the wire. We'll do it all here on the Coin Flip podcast. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly, signing off. See you back here next week. Drop a like, drop a comment. Who had the lock of the week? What's your lock of the week? Who wins this Week 16 matchup? And of course, hit the subscribe button. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly, signing off. See you later.
Peace.